Good morning and welcome to the Meltdown. Folks, I hope you had a great weekend. The weather certainly in our part of the country is nice and crisp. Watch temperatures in the 80-degree range. That was pretty interesting. I'm going to focus a little bit on geopolitical issues, and I'm going to spend time in our market. I think it's important to recognize that over the last 3 weeks, China's equivalent of Twitter is Weibo. And so for the past 3 weeks, the Chinese central bank calls it microblogging. They are about to provide $50 billion in cash, which is much the same thing that our Federal Reserve has been doing. Quantitative easing has now made it to China, and they're not using those words, but folks, that's exactly what's happening. Now, we're supposed to start tapering the Federal Reserve, the United States government's form of monetary policy, is going to back off supposedly in the neighborhood of about $10 billion a month. However, considering our monetary policy is creating nearly $2 trillion of extra debt, do you really think that that's going to make that much of an impact over the long haul? $100 billion doesn't come off at $2 trillion very fast. Anyway, the 40 million people affected by the Target debacle. JP Morgan Chase is in the midst of limiting debit transactions. Folks, debit cards are 20th century. This is the 21st century. Eventually, that's got to change. Now, in the big picture, the price of oil continues to move up. The precious metals are up and down. That's pretty much the norm. A little bit here, a little bit there. I find it interesting that we're still dealing in a weak dollar. It's supposed to be weak because we've blown it up. But for the same trading range that we've seen the past couple of days, all of the foreign exchanges are up against the dollar. And so it's long-term weakness. Now, I see the price of crude oil just dropped a little bit below $99 a barrel. I saw that Brent C crude trading at about 111. So that narrowing that we've talked about from where they were in par to where Brent C is back to its premium, it's been as much as 20%. We're back to about 11, 12. All I really want to convey is that my message is consistent. It isn't gloom and doom. It's not that the bottom is going to fall out of the barrel tomorrow. Tomorrow's too soon. The government is capable of continuing this juggling act. Alan Greenspan started it when George W. Bush was in office. This was a long-term shell game. The game is still being played. If you're in stock, if you're in CDs, if you are not getting the rate of return that you so desperately need to keep up with real inflation, then you look at precious metals. Now, I made the comment last week, this was a conversation that Michael and I have had. This is not an inflation hedge. We don't have inflation from the government's perspective. We do have to protect ourselves from the government. Now, the NSA debacle has affected business. That's what tech people are talking about. That's what aircraft manufacturers are talking about. We brought up the Brazilian situation and how it's going to affect Boeing. Folks, this is a far-reaching problem. I saw a segment this morning that dealt with the movie industry and the fact that production days in Los Angeles over the past 5 or 6 years have dropped by 50 percentage points. There are other states, 40 of them, that offer more incentives than California offers. And to go shoot in New Zealand is cheaper than Los Angeles. And when an American production company decides that they're going to go produce their business in a foreign country, that gets people listening. Now, I know that New Orleans gets a lot of TV and movie production now. Not going to try and take any kind of a shot at the state of Louisiana. Ultimately, what I'm going to tell you is that Los Angeles recognizes that they've got to get a hunk of business back, and they will produce incentives. They will make it difficult on other states, other countries to get our business. Avatar is in negotiation to continue the next in their sequel at a, God bless you, at a cost of about $400 million is what James Cameron has estimated the cost of the sequel to run. That business is going overseas. We are a global currency. The CIA is doing damage control for the NSA. The government is in trouble. And you and I are sitting here watching a euphoric stock market, interest rates moving, and trying to figure out how the heck do we protect ourselves from ourselves? I mean, really, it's an important issue. I look at the 10-year Treasury now at 290. We are going to have a 3% 10-year Treasury yield. The government is trying to keep interest rates at zero, and they don't have control of the economy or what's going to happen out there. So gold, which is supposed to be, quote, a hedge, is going to trade in a range. And whether you make money or lose money isn't the point of central bankers. They're playing in the arena for billions of dollars. My only perspective on all of this is to tell you that you need to diversify. And you need to diversify in coins, rare, semi-rare, and precious metals. I pick on the 1991 half-ounce gold American Eagle. I've sold the coins in the last year or so between $2,700 and $3,000. There's a dealer out there paying $2,690 for them. So over a year's time, I've managed to make back the spread. I've got clients that are looking at profit. And the fact that they're rare is the added incentive to be able to get involved. See, if money's not the issue, and if you had to pay $3,500 to $4,000, you're not going to go out and buy a bunch of them. They're not out there. And complete original rolls, forget it. An original roll that's not a put-together roll is probably worth between $4,000 and $5,000 a coin, and you're talking about 40 coin rolls. Half-ounce gold American Eagles dated 1988 to 1991 are tough coins to get, period. Onesies and twosies are hard enough. And don't go looking online. You're not going to find anything but the proofs. And this is a market still wrought full of gold and still wrought full of silver. However, don't think for a moment that JP Chase isn't out there chasing the market, because there are still claims coming in against them as they try to fight and lay claims against other agencies. This is a industry that is wrought at billions of dollars. Makes the $1 million theft almost get away, except that God knows everything, so that's another issue. Now, I want to talk about an article that I got to read. This is a December article. And in our industry, because there are 9,000 different coins, you figure for the most part that you find that area or two, you get very involved in it, and you become an expert. Now, personally, I love Morgan silver dollars and Peace silver dollars. I love $20 gold pieces. Back in 1998 and 1999, I completed the very first set of certified $20 gold pieces. They were mostly NGC graded. There were a couple of PCGS coins that NGC just didn't feel comfortable recognizing the grades that PCGS had put on the coins. Gentleman that I'll remain anonymous with his name talks about the love for our industry. And the area that he's focused in on is one that I'm going to touch on. But understand that in the late 1800s, most of the 1800s, but for the most part, the mid to late 1800s, first part of the 20th century, coins of commerce were used. Currency was out there. It was protected and saved by collectors and investors. But for the most part, coins transacted. Pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars. They were used. Silver dollars were used. From my perspective, I look at coins that were minted in, say, the 1916 to the 1930 range. Those were standing Liberty quarters. And a quarter back during that time frame was a lot of money. I had a great uncle who passed away a number of decades ago. But Uncle Max talked about and saved money. He talked about it. 1964, when he retired, he found out a year or two later that his trash collector was making more money than he was. So it took special maintenance of his retirement account to get him and keep him in retirement. I want to say that Uncle Max passed away in the mid-80s. My point is that most rare coins are rare for a reason. It might have been a low mintage. In 1916, there was a quarter that the mintage was only about 52,000. The dimes, the Mercury dime 1916 Philadelphia, was limited to under a couple of, well, I want to say it was in the 250, 220 range, 250,000. And so as coins of commerce, any 1916 Philadelphia, 16D, Denver 1916D Mercury dime, if you can find the coin, is going to command somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500 to $700 at the low end. It's a rare coin. Now, there are other dates of Mercury dimes that may not cost you more than $2 to $3 a piece. Depends on the quality, depends on the date. And these are all factors that really do matter. Now, from my perspective, when I suggest to people that they get their hands on a red book, it's to look at the different types of coins that were produced by the U.S. government going back as far as 1792, all the way to coins that are made today. President Reagan deemed the coins to be numismatic. Numismatic just means they're collectible. So it's not quality sensitive that matters. It's quantity, quality, date, mint mark, who grades the coins, whether they're NGC or PCGS. All of these things matter. Now, I can also tell you that one of the rarest coins that I've ever had the opportunity to deal in, and this was back 20 years ago, was a 1792 half dime, DISME. 1,500 coins were originally produced. There are a couple of them coming up for sale. One's a mint state 66, the other is mint state 68. That coin at one time was owned by the Catholic diocese, and it's nearly perfect. It's going to command huge numbers. My point in bringing them up is that whether you buy a half dime worth 50,000 or whether you buy one that's worth more than $1 million, those two coins are going to sell. They're going to command the premium. And that's because there are hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars floating around this industry waiting to get involved in a market that is clearly not in a bubble yet. See, I watch and I listen to what we hear guys like Tim Geithner or Ben Bernanke or Janet Yellen, the people who are running the money supply, and understand that what we've seen in, quote, growth over the last week or so is something that the government's got to put out there to put out the concern of the economy. Folks, you see the price of gasoline fluctuate by 10 or 15 percentage points in a month. It's affecting lifestyles. I know. I remember $4 gasoline. I remember the concern that people had. The amount of gold that was being sold or coins or collectibles was huge. Seems like the market's gone away. And I've got former employees that I communicate with. And they wonder how business is really doing. I can tell you firsthand, business in the gold, broken gold jewelry is way off. When I first opened the store back in 2005, I guess it was '05, I remember having $50,000 months. Today, I'm lucky to spend $5,000. And the point is that originally I was pretty much the only gold dealer in Northeast Houston. Today, you can't drive more than a few blocks without seeing somebody with a sign or see a marquee that's got a gold business. Well, now they're starting to fall out. And there have been several that have lost their business here in the Humble area. It's all over town. You don't see the guy standing out on the street, and I don't care whether the weather is 60 degrees, 30 degrees, or 80 degrees. The gold's been sold. And the company that did the most TV advertising down in Pompano Beach, Florida, they're out of business. Their mail list, the marketing, worked so well that those leads are worth a fortune. But folks, what I really want to convey is that it doesn't matter whether you're buying $3,000 books of coins and you want to build into it, or whether you're spending $1 million on a rare coin. You wonder, what is the liquidity of $1 million coin? Folks, that's auction quality, clearly. But the other side of what's going on is the liquidity of having a common date dime that's worth between $1.25 and $2, and being able to get the $2 if that's what you need, want, or desire. Look, there's lots of different stuff. And you can go into a lot of different places. You can ship it off. You can do whatever you're up to. And whether you're doing good, clean business or whether you're just stealing stuff and liquidating it, the bottom line is that people maintain liquidity, and this is an area that has yet to see the bubble that the real estate market has. Now, I love coins, whether you want to buy, sell, or trade them. I would ask you to give me a shout. That's 281-548-2646, or toll free 877-705-2646. The last 2646, that's coin, so it's pretty easy to remember. 281-548-COIN, hit option 0, you get a live voice. If I'm available, I'll take your call. Be more than happy to discuss whatever aspect of the market you're considering. You can email me. That's Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. I make a market in all types of coins. Problem is, not all coins are worth owning. And I want to thank Candy and her husband for coming in on Saturday, getting the kids started in coin collecting, whether you're looking for wheat pennies or quarters or silver dollars. There's a market for everybody. And the only question you've got to really decide is, how do you want to build that portfolio? Because frankly, folks, things are getting worse before they're going to get better. That's what Geithner and Bernanke said a year ago. Here we come into 2014 and 2015. They said it's going to get worse. Well, the government, big business, is going to try to convince you, stay the course. The market's strong. That's where you want to be. My message to you is diversify. Take some profit. Look around. Own some other types of assets. Ask questions. Read the internet. Give me an email. Give me a call. I want to be able to work with you. Anyway, I'm going to cut this show short. We'll be back this afternoon. But folks, I never get off air without thanking Texas Children's Hospital, both the Downs Clinic and the Ronald McDonald House. Now, the Myers Center is located just south of the Fannin main campus at Texas Children's. And I love Dr. Ostermeyer and her staff. The Ronald McDonald House is on the 4th floor, 20 rooms, 40 to 80 people a night. If you can provide a hot meal, please give them a call. It's 832-824-8600. That's 832-824-8600. Folks, I'm online, whether it's on Facebook or email directly, but I came across a woman who is about to have her 4th child. She lives in Ohio. Elizabeth, I pray for you. I pray for your child. In vitro, found out that the child is going to be Downs. There's part of the brain missing. This is a time where we reach out to people in need. I love Downs kids. I love all children, and I'm really excited about Jason being here on Saturday. Anyway, I appreciate your donations, folks, to the Myers Center or to the Ronald McDonald House. If you go to the meltdown.com The donation links are there. Make your charitable contribution. You'll get a receipt. The information is totally private. I don't get any of the information except to know that money has been transferred into the Downs Clinic or the Ronald McDonald House. Anyway, appreciate you listening in. I'll be back this afternoon. I hope that you'll reach out for me if I can help in any way. God bless you. We'll see you a little bit later.